depending on the caliber rifle, but I can honestly tell you my uncle, when I was a little kid, was up by Mount Shasta, and he was out bear hunting, and he shot a bear, and then the bear decided to charge him after he shot it. And then, before he could get a second shot, the bear mauled him, and he was in the hospital for well over a month. They didn't even think he was going to live at the start because, the bear literally just tore him apart. Now, how many shots? When I was in the service, sometimes you could hit somebody 4, 5, 6 times, and they would still keep coming because of the adrenaline.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know of a guy in a little country town around here that I think some guy is a big guy. I think he's on PCP or one of those things, and he's kind of out of his mind. And the cops or somebody shot him 5 times in the chest. Well, for most people, that's going to take you down. But he kept on going. I'm not sure he even died. So magnify that by 3 times the weight and the mass. They may have a different skin. How some fish have scales. They're really hard to penetrate. So I don't know. Antelope have hollow hairs, and deer have solid hairs, etc. Mammoths have wool underneath their long hair. So all hair is not the same. All skin's not the same. It seems to me plausible that these things have a really, really tough hide, or they can tighten their skin maybe and deflect or sustain bullet shots. Well, this cowboy said, we shot it with high-powered ammunition. Well, okay, I don't know how he could survive through that, but again, they took off. They got out of there like you did. So they don't know what happened to him. They never saw him again, although their mother had seen him before and told them about it. Then they encountered him. So that's in a remote part of the canyons over here in the ranch area.
Uh-huh.
And almost nobody goes in those places, so there could be a lot of stuff in there. You'd never see it.
Wow. Have you heard of anybody being hurt by a Bigfoot?
Frankly, no. I know a lot of guys that have seen them, but I have not heard of anybody being hurt. Ron Moorhead talks about as they were going up in the mountains to their hunting camp, these things would throw rocks the size of your fist above their heads and knock bark off the trees. So if they can hit a tree at 100 feet, or whatever it was, I think they could hit a person's head. So they weren't trying to hurt them. They could have, if they're that good a shot. Like, a lot of animals have perfect balance and all that sort of thing. So I don't know. Why didn't they hurt them? I don't know.
Yeah.
These Indian girls that were captured, that's maybe a different thing. Maybe they aren't around anymore. Maybe that type isn't around anymore. But there's nobody camping out anymore. The Indians don't live out there on the rivers, and they're not out there all the time. So the occasion for that's pretty limited today, I would think.
Oh, yeah. The thing is, like when I had my encounter, I was out in the middle of nowhere. The closest even anything was like 15 miles away from the road I was on. So, and we were in a real secluded place. That's why they built that internment camp there for World War II, because it was secluded up in the Canadian Rockies. Now, I don't know if being up there, I don't know how many people go up in that area to investigate, but I've got a feeling it's not many people going up there, unlike, some of the encounters where people, I don't know. I got people who say they'll go into the local campground and go out, on a path and run into a Bigfoot. What's your feeling on that?
Well, I think the American Indians could just about disappear behind trees. They just knew how to move. They'd be right close to you, and the white man wouldn't see them. So I've walked these canyons around Crosbyton here, down in the dry washes and the breaks. Since I've been out here in the canyon since '84. I've only seen one coyote all the time I was out there, and I've been out there a lot, thousands, 20,000 hours. I've never seen a badger. I've seen a lot of their holes. I finally ran into the first armadillo. It nearly scared me to death. It ran across the water, but basically on top of the water, kind of. So they're there all the time. I just never saw them. And I think Bigfoot has the ability to disguise themselves, and they can watch you, and you don't really see them. You know, we see enough of them, but apparently there are a lot more there than we think is there.
I don't know. I get so many people send me photos all the time, you know, of pictures of Bigfoot. And then when I bring them up on Photoshop, I hate to say it, 99% of them have been like stumps, you know, through the bushes that kind of resemble a Bigfoot type of thing. But when you zoom into it, you realize that is not a Bigfoot. It's a stump. And and especially on Facebook, so many people post pictures of Bigfoot and stuff on there, and you can tell the picture has been manipulated, or, you know, that the object of the Bigfoot is a little bit more in focus than the surrounding area right next to it is out of focus. I find people who do something like that does more damage in the field of at least trying to prove that there's Bigfoot by trying to manipulate and convince people that they are Bigfoot.
Well, Photoshop is basically made for, you don't know who's telling the truth. You know, you almost have to know the source in the photograph or be a Photoshop expert to know if something's been manipulated. And they can tell, but it takes some high-tech stuff. You know, that's unfortunate, but wow, it's getting to be, it's like all these photographs that circulate the web about giants. Giants discovered in Greece, and you know, there'll be 4 or 5 of these skeletons there. And I get those all the time. I've told people, I said, these are all Photoshop, and here's why. And I explain that to them. And but man, they are so convincing. There are college courses on how to make, you know, Photoshop to blend things together that would, you know, that you really can't tell. There's some really super stuff. You know, I could even do a little bit, and I don't know anything, but man, there's some of these guys that can. You just don't know what to trust anymore. Like political photographs, they show a picture of some political figure, and they've got an awful expression on the face, when really it was just someone clicking photographs. They happen to, you know, twitch their nose or something, which makes them look mean, and it was just a split-second thing. But they'll publish it as, look, here's how this person is. And they'll publish a photograph that was taken 2 years ago, make you think it was just taken today. This is you almost have to doubt everything you see. But, you know, going back before digital, the reports are still there. They're basically all very similar. You know, they're not just people making them up. So whether we've got photographs today or not, I think the stories are still valid for the most part. And since everybody's got a phone now, I think there's probably more good photographs than we realize of these things, and maybe going to be a lot more.
Oh, I think so. I mean, like I said, I won't go out camping anymore or go out in the woods. I tell you, it really, you know, I grew up in a family, Joe, that, you know, when I was a little kid, every summer we'd take off for a month. My dad would take us out camping everywhere from Idaho to Montana to California. We go camping. And I grew up that way. And you know, when I started having my kids, that's what we did till I had this encounter. And, you know, I'll be honest with you, it scared me. And you know, in a situation like that, you know, I get these people, they keep telling me that they give off orbs and they're friendly. Well, I didn't feel that. You know, again, maybe we encountered it at the wrong time, the wrong place, and maybe it was protecting its territory. I think if it wanted to catch us, it would have caught us. I really do think that. But I tell you, it's a good scare.
It's like the foul odor that's often, you know, reported about them. I'm not sure that's not something they can turn off and on like a skunk. You know, skunks smell a little bit like a skunk, but until they spray, you can handle one and be around them without any problem. So I just wonder if maybe Bigfoot does the same thing. He's able to put that smell out there if he wants you to smell it. Maybe leave him alone. I don't know. but that is often associated with them.
Oh, I can tell you this: when it was bending the tree over, and we were, had our car doors open, I'll tell you what the smell smelled like. It smelled like urine, muss, and this is like Canadian Rockies in the first week of June, so it's really still cold up there, and it was so bad it burned my throat. That's how pungent it was, and I mean,
that's like skunk.
Yeah, and we had to drive, a ways with the windows down to get the smell out. It was that strong. So I don't know if it secreted it out or whatever it did, but it proved its case to me. I'll tell you that.
Well, other animals have musk glands and that sort of thing, and I'm not. Skunk can spurt stuff out. I'm not sure Bigfoot doesn't have glands, or maybe always pores. Can just all of a sudden they just exude this gas that goes out. Gas expands. That's why cigarettes. If you're around somebody who doesn't like cigarettes, I hate cigarettes. I tell my friends, that stuff is a gas. It's going to spread 50 feet in every direction. You can't keep it from it. So maybe Bigfoot's done something like that, because how could it travel that quickly to someone unless it's projected out there?
Yeah, I never thought about that, too, because we noticed the smell almost right away. And, again, as we were taking off and I was gunning the car, and, especially with the passenger door open yet, I tell you, it's so strong, even my eyes were burning. That's how bad it was. And it's a smell I've never smelt in my life before. I never have smelt that, and never since then or ever before then.
Wow. Well, these ladies here in town said the same thing about Mothman. There was just smelled really bad, but that was because they were up close to it. So
now
I don't know what that means.
Now, what was reported with you? Now, you have a museum, if I take it.
Right. Yeah, the Mount Blanco Fossil Museum.
Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about that, and then we're going to talk about the lady encounter with the Mothman in your area.
Okay. I started working in the La Brea tar pits back in 1980, and I'd found some buffalo bones out on my brother's ranch out here in Texas. I restored them with this certain clay, and the detail was such that the guys in the laboratory there that handled lots of ancient bison bones couldn't tell what was restoration and what was real bone, and they declared me to be dangerous. So they opened their files, they opened their doors, and I just started getting books and reading. I'd use the introduction of knowing one paleontologist to get access to another, and so wherever I went, I could get in the basement collections and find out all this cool stuff these guys knew. So when I came to Texas, the ranch that my brother managed had a lot of fossils on it of everything you can think of, including human, although I never really collected any human bones there. I did find one eroding out. I found the top of a human skull one time. So since I could mold and restore and replicate to where you couldn't tell the difference, I sort of became a hit with the paleo guys, and eventually had a laboratory, studio here in Crosbyton, and I was doing a lot of molding and reproducing, and I was called in to mold a big mastodon, one of the most famous mastodons ever, called the burning tree mastodon, with living bacteria in its intestines.
Oh, wow.
With its stomach contents still there. And then I molded a big triceratops for a guy. So this put me in the main thoroughfare, and I had stuff I've done world-class stuff from all over because of that. Well, since I mold, I can have a copy of these things myself. And I mold a lot of really big stuff. And I thought, I've just got to have a museum. So a building became available in Crosbyton, and we moved in there, and I put all my stuff on display, and a lot of the real bones that, I just put them out. Here's the real bones. They're not finished yet. They're not fixed up. And I'd put out casts that were finished or unfinished or untrimmed, just so people get a little broader idea of what the museum does. Most museums you go to, you see restored bones or mounted animals mounted bones